Hi, so welcome to my top 10 books of 2023 video. I want to talk about like the best books that I've read that are released this year. There's a chance that the list might still change because there are some releases from this year that I still want to read, like Enleki's Translation State and some others that I can't remember right now. But as of like mid-December, this is my top 10 list. There's no particular order or anything like that. So yeah, the first one that I want to talk about is Bridge by Lauren Bukes. This is like a sci-fi thriller involving like parallel dimensions about the daughter of a neuroscientist who was obsessed with the idea of traveling through other universes. And yeah, when that neuroscientist died, the daughter is convinced that she didn't die and instead she's just like in another universe. And yeah, so that's basically the premise. And if you are a sci-fi reader who enjoys books from authors like Blake Crouch, I mean Blake Crouch also had a really good sci-fi thriller about parallel dimensions. So yeah, if you enjoy stuff like that, then you will likely enjoy this book. It didn't have like the most compelling main character. It had like a non-binary side character who I thought was more interesting than the main character. But yeah, the thriller part I think is done really well, and yeah, it's not my number one favorite, I guess. I know I said there's no ranking, but this is definitely not my number one favorite, but still in my top 10. Next I have Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. So I was a bit conflicted. I wasn't sure which Brandon book that I wanted to put here, and I didn't want to just put like 2 or 3 Sanderson books. It could either have been this or Yumi or Defiant, but at the end I chose this one because I think like this is the best one, even though not by much, but still. So yeah, this is a standalone Cosmere book. So if you want to get into the Cosmere, then this is a good place to start. I think it has a very unique writing style, at least when talking about Sanderson. Like he doesn't usually write this way, but I think this is a much better writing style than his usual style, which is kind of boring. But this here is very interesting, and the writing style and the POV character is very charming. So yeah, if you like the Princess Bride or stories of that nature, then you might enjoy this one. Next, I want to talk about a book that is very much well loved within BookTube, and that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. Is that how you pronounce his name? Islington? Islington? I don't know. I'm just gonna say Islington. But yeah, I've never read another book from this author before, so this is my first James Islington book, and it was just amazing. I think it was like the most well-paced book that I've read in the past couple of years. Like every page is just so gripping, so engaging, and so if you enjoy stories like Red Rising or stories with magical schools, like I don't know, Harry Potter, I guess. But yeah, it's fantasy, but it kind of blends sci-fi and fantasy. It has a magical school trope, and yeah, the aesthetic is a bit kind of like Red Rising, but not really. So yeah, a lot of people have said good things about this book, so I'm just not gonna say too much about it. But yeah, it's definitely in my top 10. Another one, oh yeah, this is a sequel. The second book in a duology, and that is He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan. So this is the second book by the author, and in their first book, which is the first book of the series, I didn't remember the title. Burned, she who I don't know, something like that. It was their debut novel, and I didn't like it that much. I thought it was okay, but they had a lot of problems that a lot of debut authors struggle with. But this book, the second one, is like such a huge improvement over the first book. There's a lot of, I mean, it felt like the author is much more experienced than they actually are. So yeah, if you like historical fantasy that takes place in China, then you will probably enjoy this book. What's next? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I didn't like make a list or something. I mean, I didn't like make a note. I just made the list in my head. So I'm trying to remember. Next, oh yeah, Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tash. So this one is a bit weird. At first, I wasn't really sure if I liked it or not, but the more I thought about it, I think the more I like it. So this is basically a story of a de-radicalization. It's about a girl who grows up to be a warrior, and she lives in this like a fascist society, and not just fascist, just very bigoted society, who just wants to like, do war, and like fight battles and stuff. And I really like this because the protagonist is at first not very likable, but as we get to know her more and more, and as she develops more, and it becomes clear that what she was before is not who she actually is, and she becomes a bit more likable, I guess. Not that likable, but yeah, I just really enjoyed the way the character developed. And yeah, it was really good sci-fi, and especially it's standalone. I love standalone books these days, so yeah. And another book that is also standalone is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. And I had never read the author's other book, which is very popular. I think it's called Sort of Geigen or something like that. And I had never read that. I just decided to read this one because it sounded interesting, and it is. Um, I'm not gonna say too much about the premise, but it's basically it reminded me of R.F. Kuang's Babel, which is one of my favorite books of all time. But this is like not historical fantasy. This is high epic fantasy, but it does have a lot of the same themes, like the aesthetics as well. It's dark academia that tries to explore themes of colonialism and imperialism and stuff like that, and it does it through the magic, similar to how Babel also did it through the magic, but the magic is completely different, and it's super interesting. And yeah, I just loved it so much. And there are a lot of like plot developments that was just amazing, and it just blew me away, and not to mention the amazing characters as well. Now to get back into sci-fi, I have a bit of climate fiction, which I've read a lot this year, and my favorite among those, and the one that I read that is from this year. Oh my god, I can't talk. Is the Great Transition by Nick Fuller Gugians. I think that's the author's name. Sorry if I'm wrong, but yeah. So this is a climate fiction story about two different like types of mindsets when it comes to climate. There's like on one side there are these people who just wanna live. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention, like, this book is set after the climate is saved, basically after climate change is stopped, and there's this group of people who just want to live and enjoy life and enjoy the planet, especially after everything that they've gone through. But on the other hand, there's this group of people who wants climate justice, who wants to punish the people who are actually responsible for climate crisis, like the oil executives who didn't do anything but make things worse, etc. And it's interesting how to see these two very different mindsets like clash against each other. And this book also has some really excellent like thriller story. I guess it's called domestic thriller, but yeah, it's really good. And again, it's standalone, so yeah, if you're looking for standalone sci-fi, then this might be for you. What's next? Oh yeah, oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting about this book. But of course, I'm talking about Lightbringer by Pierce Brown, who is the writer of the Red Rising saga, and this is like book number 6, if I'm not mistaken, of the saga. And if I have to pick like one number one favorite, then this book would be it. And yeah, this is like one of the best books I've ever read, I think. It's just insanely, yeah, it's a bit all over the top. I mean, it's a bit over the top, but in the best possible way. Like, I think this is the best space opera that I've ever read. And yeah, if you haven't read Red Rising, then at least give the first book a try. I know it's not for everyone. I know it's a bit like generic YA-ish kind of deal, but if you continue with the series, I think it's absolutely worth it, because the final two books, I mean the last two books so far, which is Lightbringer and Dark Age, are insanely amazing. Yeah, sorry, I just don't know how else to describe this series, especially the last couple of books. They're just so good. What else is in my top 10? Hold on. Sorry about that, I kind of forgot, but yeah, I have two more books that I want to talk about. The first one is In Ascension by Martin McInnes. So this is like a literary sci-fi. Like, it's so literary that more people in the literary fiction circles know about this book compared to like people in the sci-fi circles, which I thought was a bit funny. And it's always interesting when books do that. Like, another example of books that do that is probably, this, or this author's other books, because yeah, Martin McInnes's In Ascension was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, which it's usually a very literary award. So not a lot of like sci-fi fantasy authors do that. I mean, get that nomination, but yeah, this book got nominated, and yeah, I understand why. Like, literary fiction people loved it. It's a great exploration of the main character and the messy family dynamics, but I think even for fans of sci-fi, there's still a lot to get there. There's a lot of like there's a lot of sci-fi stuff that was done extremely well, and not just, I know a lot of people usually don't like it when like literary fiction authors just suddenly try to write a sci-fi story, but I think this is one of the examples where it's actually done well. Well, actually, I don't know if this author is usually more of a literary fiction writer, or maybe he does sci-fi, or maybe he's done sci-fi, but yeah, that's beside the point. My point is that this is a great exploration of the main character, and if you like messy family dynamics, then you will probably enjoy this book. And yeah, again, it's very well written, since it's so literary and all that. So if you're looking for that, and again, it's standalone. Yeah, there's so many great standalone stories that I've read this year, and this is definitely one of them. And the last one is not a standalone, and it is System Collapse by Martha Wells, which is the latest book in the Murderbot series. So I don't really have too much to say about this. When I first read this, I was a bit confused by some things because of the timeline. So this book isn't continuing the previous book or something like that. Yeah, it's a bit confusing at first, but I think it's actually one of the better Murderbot books. I think Murderbot as a series is a bit of a mixed bag for me. I think some of the shorter installments, like the novellas, don't work that well, while the novels usually work well. And this is a full-on novel, but it's not as long as the other novel on the series. So yeah, I think it's maybe the perfect length for a Murderbot story. So it's not too long, but it's not too short either. And yeah, don't really have too much else to say about that, since it's like since the book is part of a series, and it's like not the first or second book, it's quite far into the series. So yeah, I think that those are all my top 10 favorites of the year. We'll see if it changes. It probably won't, but who knows? Maybe I will read something that I enjoy more than a couple of these books. So yeah, thanks for watching, and feel free to put your own top 10 in the comments if you want, and don't forget to like and also subscribe if you want to see more things like this. Thanks for watching.